Early in the morning, a rescuer named Jack Miller received a call. A fawn was drowning in a forest pond near the Cascade Mountains. The pond was deep in the woods, and the only way to reach it was via a narrow trail. Jack hurried to the call, keeping his trusty partner, a German shepherd named Rex, close by. There was no one on the shore. Before them lay a wide, cold pond, shrouded in a light morning mist. In the distance, barely visible, a fawn was desperately struggling in the water. Jack immediately realized that it was impossible to get there on foot. The bottom was muddy, and the depth was dangerous. He quickly fastened a bright life jacket on Rex, and checked the long rope so that he could pull the dog back in case of danger. Rex stood alert, ready for action. After a short command, Jack, holding the rope tightly, sent Rex forward. The sheepdog took a running start, jumped into the water, and swam confidently toward the small dot in the middle of the pond. Rex paddles confidently with his paws, overcoming the cold current that pulls him sideways. The water is dark and deep, and the fawn is desperately struggling in the distance, every second critical. Jack Miller stands on the shore in a blue jacket, closely watching the dog's movements and controlling the tension of the safety rope so he can help her if necessary. The dog gradually approaches the fawn, confidently holding its course despite the resistance of the current. She gently touches the fawn with her muzzle, helping it stay afloat, and pulls it slightly toward her, keeping the small body on the surface. Jack feels the change in resistance through the rope. Rex is leading the baby to shore. Now the return journey begins. Rex, holding the fawn, swims towards the forest shore, making powerful, confident strokes. The fawn gradually calms down and stops struggling, trusting the dog. Jack, holding the rope, prepares to help bring them both ashore and complete the rescue operation. Rex reached the shore, holding the fawn by the shoulder and carefully pulling it out of the cold water. Jack Miller, standing at the edge of the forest pond in a blue jacket, helped the dog bring the baby ashore, gently supporting it with his hands. The fawn was shivering, its small body wet and barely moving, but Rex held it securely, preventing the slippery body from sliding back into the water. The light morning mist gave the scene a warm softness, despite the tension of the moment. Jack quickly wrapped the fawn in a warm towel, wiping the water from its fur and carefully checking its breathing. He held the baby gently, massaging its legs and stomach to stimulate blood circulation, and spoke softly to it, soothing it. Rex sat nearby, watching his owner's actions closely, ready to intervene again if the fawn became unwell or tried to break free. When the fawn had recovered a little, Jack transferred it to a carrier prepared for transport to the nearest veterinary clinic. He made sure the animal was securely covered and began to walk carefully along the forest path, watching every bump in the ground so as not to disturb the baby. Rex walked alongside, occasionally glancing at the carrier, while the soft morning light reflected off the fawn's wet fur, creating an atmosphere of true rescue. Jack carefully placed the wet fawn, still wrapped in a towel, on the back seat of his car, putting an extra blanket underneath to keep it warm and prevent it from freezing. Rex jumped in after him and settled down next to the fawn, snuggling up to it as if trying to share his warmth. Jack checked the fawn's breathing again, made sure it was calm, and gently closed the door, trying not to make any sudden movements. On the way to the clinic, the car swayed gently on the bends of the mountain road, and the morning light streamed through the windows. Jack periodically looked back to make sure the fawn was okay. Rex lay quietly the whole time, watching the baby closely, only occasionally glancing at his owner. The road was short, but tense. Jack was in a hurry every minute to get the rescued animal there as soon as possible. The veterinary clinic greeted them with a cool corridor and the smell of medicine. Jack quickly carried the fawn inside, where the veterinary team was already waiting. The fawn was carefully laid on the table and examined. Its pulse, breathing, and body temperature were checked. The doctor dried its fur, examined its paws, and listened to its heart with a stethoscope, while Jack stood nearby, stroking the baby's neck and continuing to quietly reassure it. Rex sat nearby, watching every movement warily. The veterinary clinic greeted them with soft lighting and calm silence. Jack carefully carried the fawn inside, still holding it in his arms, wrapped in a towel. Rex walked alongside him, watching his every step. The veterinarian on duty and his assistant were already waiting for them at the reception desk, and they quickly took the rescued baby into the office. While Jack briefly explained how it all happened, the veterinarian checked its breathing, heartbeat, and body temperature, listened to its lungs, and examined its legs for injuries. The assistant gently rubbed the fawn with a dry towel, trying to warm it up, while Jack watched every movement anxiously, as if afraid of missing a single detail. When the initial examination was complete, the veterinarian treated the tiny abrasions on the skin and made sure that the baby's life was not in danger. The fawn was carefully wrapped in a clean, warm blanket and placed on a low couch under an infrared lamp to restore body heat. The vet noted that its breathing gradually became deeper and more even, and the trembling stopped. Rex lay down on the floor next to the couch, keeping his eyes on his new friend, as if guarding him even here, where he was completely safe. Jack finally allowed himself to relax a little. He knew the baby was in good hands, but he still couldn't take his eyes off the tiny fawn, who was quietly sniffling under the soft light of the lamp. When the veterinarians were sure that the baby was no longer in danger, Jack carefully picked up the fawn. It was wrapped in a warm blanket, but it was still shivering, either from weakness or from the fear it had experienced. Rex walked alongside, not straying a step, as if understanding that their little charge still needed care. They left the city and headed back to the forest where they had found him yesterday. The car rolled slowly along the country road, and the interior was filled with a quiet, almost solemn silence, broken only by the sound of the engine. Jack felt the little heart beating in his arms, and mentally thanked fate that they had made it in time, that their efforts had not been in vain. When they reached the familiar clearing, Jack noticed a herd of deer in the distance, grazing peacefully in the morning mist. He carefully got out of the car, placed the fawn on the soft grass, and it took its first tentative step. Rex stood nearby, bowing his head, as if not wanting to spoil the touching moment. Suddenly, a doe, apparently the mother, separated from the herd and walked toward them with quick, springy steps. The fawn, as if forgetting its weakness, happily ran to her, and Jack smiled, feeling a slight sadness at the farewell, but also enormous relief. Their mission was accomplished, a life was saved, and the little runaway was returning home. Thank you for watching until the end. Please like and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you next time.